Hey guys, Doverbro again. We're back with another Greentext story. Today we're reading the Liliad. Given the success of the Ballad of Ella, I figured, I'd go ahead and do this one. Seeing everyone kind of engage with the video and interact with it definitely inspired me to go ahead and make this one. It's really cool to see that kind of positive feedback and everything from everyone. And there were some negative feedbacks. I'd like to consider them as constructive, however. And this video was definitely edited and produced a lot better than the last one, so there aren't any misreads or stutters or anything like that. It's one fluent storytelling experience, so I hope you guys enjoy this one even more than the last one. However, I will let you know that it is, however, a feels type thread, but it revolves around a 16-year-old kid and his 12-year-old essentially e-girlfriend, and he does go into vivid details at certain points in the story. So if that's something that's going to kind of like creep you out or put you off, I do apologize. I'm just letting you know up front. But if not, if you guys want some feels threads up ahead, here we go.
Story time. In this thread, feels. Hope you do not need to forever alone. Anon loses his virginity. This tale starts just over a decade ago. Today, I am a 25-year-old semi-basement dweller, but once upon a time, I was a 14-year-old total basement dweller. My human contact was limited to people I spoke to through AOL and those people I accidentally bumped into in school hallways. My father's business partner had a daughter who was my age, and in a desperate attempt to keep their son from going full disappointment on them, my parents did everything to get us together. This resulted in me helping her set up her family's computer and install an instant messaging program. We started talking every now and then, but still never acknowledged each other in person. She was my first real friend in my teenage years, despite not being a friend at all. Predictably, I fell in love with her, but she didn't notice or care. So time passes. After about 6 months of talking online, I got invited to her place for a movie. Exciting. This was most definitely set up by our parents, but I still went along with it, as being a beta loser fag wasn't something I'd totally accepted yet. At her home, we settled on the couch while her parents fled to give us space. She didn't pay much attention to me, just silently watched the movie. After some time, her little sister joined us, and the two of them talked in a bit. It was awkward as fucked, to the extent that I remember it today. I got the hell out of there as fast as I could. Within a couple of months, they moved to another country. Oh well, the end. Just kidding, not the end. After they moved, we continued to talk online, though looking back, I guess I sort of noticed a personality shift. Maybe it was from being somewhere new, but she appeared to be more excited to talk to me and more interested in me, as my interest barely extended past Pokemon and something awful. I did my best to keep up with her cultural references. After a while, she was really warming up to me and making me feel like I was worth something. And yes, all this happened in the warm glow of a computer screen, but it still felt very real to a skinny loser. I was happy. It had been about a year and a half since we were set up, and I was still in love with her, though of course I said nothing about it. My father planned a trip to head out to their home to check on the company out there. I hopped on that trip as fast as I could. We were going to meet face to face for the first time in 9 months or so, and I stupidly hoped that maybe, well, whatever. When we arrived, it was clear my social circle was going to be small. I don't speak Spanish. Now you can narrow down their location. And was basically limited to expats, which in this area was basically my friend, her sister, and her parents. The plane ride was interminable. It felt like it took days. I was so nervous I had even stupidly bought her a gift in the airport, some stupid Americana tchotchke that I thought would remind her of home. Our first evening was going to be spent having dinner with the family. I was pumped, sort of, in the way that makes you feel like you're going to shit yourself. We'd been talking like friends for months about everything. It may seem like I'm leaving out something essential here. It'll be clearer soon. Her mother opened the door of their nice home in a gated community. As I stepped in, I looked all around, seeing only her sister and her mother, not her, practically dripping sweat. The gift seemed incredibly stupid now as I held it in quavering hands. She didn't show up until dinner. As we ate, she barely looked at me, didn't speak to me at all. I was horrified. What the fuck was going on? We finished eating, and I managed to corner her in the kitchen. Hey. She just looked at me. I probably bothered for a bit, but then I said, I've really liked talking to you. She looked taken back. I haven't been talking to you. My heart sank approximately as low as the deep web. That shut me up. The night ended extremely uncomfortably. I couldn't look at her, and ended up giving the gift to her mother, which came across as adorable, just the thing a 15-year-old wants to hear. My eyes didn't leave the floor. We've all had that feeling. Shaking bowels, red face, pounding, palms, sweaty as fuck. I felt tricked and stupid. Fortunately, 4chan had just been launched, so I was able to go hang out with my new best friends that night. The trip lasted a few more days. I found ways to not have to go to their home except for another uncomfortable meal. I'd been really stupid. This girl didn't care about me. I was just a forever alone waiting to happen. When we got back to the good old United States of America, seeing her username online made me well up with anger. What the fuck was her problem? My anger was palpable as I demanded that she explain herself. Why did she say she wasn't talking to me when we were talking at that moment? This is Lily. I probably stared at that sentence for 5 minutes before shutting the computer off. Oh, right. An explanation. Lily was my friend's 11-year-old sister. The hell? I swore to never use the internet again. I had been tricked by a little kid and it felt horrible, especially considering the sort of emotional things I had been talking to her about. Oh god, the way she looked at me during our meals, the fact that she had met me at the door, it started to make sense. And it wasn't good. But don't forget who the main character here is. A hormonal baby B-tard. We see where this is going. Hang on. By some miracle, I did manage to stay away from the computer for a solid day or two, a feat of mental strength I've yet to match, and when I did get back on it, I saw her username flash green and immediately sign off every time. My masturbatory fantasies got confusing. I was attracted to the girl who was my age. She had boobs, good looks, and all that, mostly the boobs, but then her sister was the one who... It was weird. One time, I wasn't fast enough. Either I wasn't at the computer or she was invisible or something, who knows, but she got a message onto my screen. I'm sorry. Immediate sign off, but I didn't block her. Even if my one friend wasn't who I thought she was, I didn't want to think about not having any friends at all, so we kept playing AOL hide and seek. Shame. Over time, I started to transfer some of my feelings. I did like the girl I had been talking to. She was fun, and even managed to talk about which water-type Pokemon was the best. If I managed to scrub out her age from my mind, or all of my memories of her as she was an annoying pest ruining all of my fun, she was kind of an okay friend. This was all internal, mind you. I still refused to speak to her. But the wall started to come down. She literally lived a continent away. It wasn't like she could come get me or shame me to my school where I continued to live my completely invisible, friendless life. Well, being friends with her wasn't so bad, was it? No need to play it cool for much longer. We started talking again. Mostly, it was me berating her. Why the fuck did she do this? Why did she trick me? That was utterly uncool. Did she tell anyone about it? Did she talk to anybody about the anxiety issues I discussed with her? How the fuck was an 11-year-old even handling me? She told me her sister stopped using that account after they moved. It had been her since then. She said she liked talking to me. She said I was cool. We all know I wasn't and am not currently cool. Doesn't change the fact that it still feels nice to be told you are. My romantic feelings had no idea where to go. I was not into her like that. She was a kid as far as I was concerned. Our friendship became my biggest secret. An online relationship with a little girl would likely be the final straw my reputation needed to be decimated forever. We kept talking. It was probably another 8 months of talking before the next major development happened. Almost daily chats with her, getting intimate about our personal lives. Not like that. Our emotions, everything. She knew more about me than anyone else. I guess it was because she was just a name on a screen, not really a real person. Lily was so far away. She couldn't hurt me. It was a perfect situation. Sort of, I mean, except for the part where she was an 11-year-old girl. Other than that. I remember posting about this exact thing briefly on B, and a topic that died rapidly. I asked if it was weird to have a best friend who was several years younger than you talk only to online. 99% of the replies reminded me that girls do not use the internet. A fair point. Obviously, my dad had to go back down there eventually. When he told me I'd be accompanying him again to broaden my horizons and/or make him hope his son wasn't a broken human being, I fought it slightly before lying in my bed every night, terrified of the meeting I knew was coming. Oops, age correction, by the way. I turned 16 shortly after the big reveal of my online pal Lily. She turned 12 just before I went down to her home country. I was a month away from 17. Just to remind you that this was in no way normal or acceptable and made me vomit a little every time I considered the confusing romantic feelings I had towards her. When the plane touched down and I knew I was physically closer to Lily than I had been in a year, I put a smile on my face and tried to stop my non-stop nervous farting. Seeing her this time was going to be completely different. Lily had been window dressing for the scenes of my life before this moment, and now she was suddenly a main player. Dinner at their home, an almost exact repeat of the situation a year previous. Her mother opened the door, Lily standing a few paces behind her. Pic related. I'll zoom in on it, but it's like super pixelated because, it's a thumbnail, whatever. An important sidebar now. Lily at 12. Lily's mother is Asian. Her father is 100% WASP. She picked up all of the best of the presented DNA and was wearing it proudly. She had almond-shaped eyes, full cheeks with deep dimples, and the most incredible skin I'd ever seen. Ivory white, smooth, blemish-free. Unlike me at 16. She was short still, while I was horrifically tall, and comparing between the two of us was another reminder. It was winter, and she was wearing a sweater with obvious lumps of breasts underneath, and my kinda adolescent mind was immediately trying to dissect. How much was real? How much was bra? Was there a bra? Etc. You know the drill. You did it too. One thing I like in a girl is nice hair. Lily had luxurious, slightly curly black hair that she wore pulled back into a ponytail. It gleamed in the light. She looked good, anon, a kid, mostly, but moving towards something more than a kid. By the time we sat down for dinner, I had the most confusing erection. A fun reminder that my previous friend was now basically invisible to me. I assume she was there too, but for the life of me, I can't place her in any of these memories. I managed to talk through dry lips, probably lots of gross smacking as I tried to get my parched mouth to produce normal speech instead of just grunts and creaky sighs. I'd been talking to Lily online for over a year, or just under a year since she told me who she was. She was probably my closest friend. Every now and then we caught one another's eye, and during dinner and during wash-up afterwards, I always followed with a swift look away. Sometimes a slight smile, though I convinced myself I imagined this. It took one night for me to decide she was definitely cute. I considered the weight. What age was acceptable? 14? 16? A couple of years? It seemed doable. Emotionally, I was probably still an 8-year-old, so it wasn't that bad, right? The justifications were so easy and started to come fast and the furious, just like me later as I thought about Lily taking off her sweater, the first time I'd actually masturbated to the thought of her, leaving me wondering if I was in fact a goddamn gross, dirty pedo bastard. She knew my birthday was coming up. Our in-person talks were severely limited, as we were never alone and I was usually off getting into the family business. Import and export is the dullest thing in the world, in case you were curious, but she managed to find a moment to slip me a small gift, telling me to open it on my actual birthday. I'd started noticing her outfits every day, started noticing her as a girl and not just a kid, but it was confusing. I was on B enough to know what pedos were like and what they were into, and while I was into her, sort of, it wasn't like that, was it? The mental struggle was starting to consume me as I entered a cycle of jacking off and shaming myself and then repeating for infinity. On the day we left, I passed around handshakes and hugs. When it came to Lily, she put her arms all the way around me, pushing her head into my chest, bumps of breasts in my stomach. I wondered if I had imagined she was shaking as she did so, and when she pulled away, I saw her eyes shining. She was sad, despite our interaction being far more limited than usual. She didn't want me to go. My own tears started to well up on the plane. When would I see her again? Another year? Longer? I ached for her, and it was weird. Was I? Did I? I couldn't figure it out. Okay, so we were in the plane after meeting up with my best friend. It was a weird feeling. I was way too old to be into a girl of that age. Halfway through my junior year in high school was not the ideal time to decide to be into a preteen, but I did sort of like her, but also I didn't. But also, oh god, what was going on? The pedos of B had basically normalized it in my mind, with the constant rounds of lolly and pizza being circulated in the early days of B, but just because it worked for them didn't mean it was going to for me. Anyways, let's get this plot into progress. Upon arrival home, we went right back to how we had been. Complete with daily chats and constant intrusive thoughts, she was becoming way too important to me, really. My only friend outside the other total losers at school who I managed to eat with. Moving forward, my father wanted me to get into the family business. Applying for college was on the near horizon and getting some good experience was smart. So I worked at his office some. It was boring as fuck though. I managed to upgrade the IT system from butt to slightly less butt, which made me feel useful. When he suggested I go do an international internship with his partner down in the country they were working with, I leapt at the chance, not only to get great experience and to be in a different culture, but also, to see Lily. I wanted to see her, and I knew that working with Dad would mean a pretty constant access stream. The awkwardness of an online relationship taking real life wouldn't last for long, would it? I was 17 and she was 12 and a half, and seeing her was all that was on my mind as I prepared for the move, packing, talking with her, brushing up on my Spanish through her help, though she found my sad attempts hilarious. It had only been 6 months since I'd left her the last time, and suddenly I was heading back. This was far sooner than I anticipated, but hey, I wasn't going to explain. Oh god, the sight I was in for. Summertime in South America means lots of immodest clothing, and Lily was no exception when the family arrived to meet me at the airport. Her tank top with spaghetti straps revealing her rounded, narrow shoulders was burned into my head from the moment I saw it. I probably stared at her throughout the airport greeting. We shared a brief, awkward hug. Again, with me not trying to be aware of the size compared to mine and the way she felt in my arms. She was a cute girl, or a hot girl, and she wasn't into me like that. She wasn't. She couldn't be. Work started. It was boring but profitable. Look, none of us care about that shit. Sadly, I was not staying in their home with them. The my age girl seemed opposed to the idea, implying that they were just setting up some sort of rape fest by putting me in the same house as her. But I was nearby, with coworkers who had a son slightly older than me. It was cool, if difficult, as I tried to habla some español. I still can't. But I got to go over frequently for meals, social events, etc. It was always Lily and her mother, sometimes her father, and rarely her sister. They'd take me out to do things, either through a sense of pity or my father paying them, who knows. I still had access to a computer, and so did Lily. This is so awkward to say. What? It's dumb, really. Lol, just say it. I think I kind of like you. When I typed it, and I am sure I said it far less eloquently than that, it felt like I was just whipping my dick out there for a car to run over, but I had to say it. The summer was a third over, and soon I'd be gone, and it'd never be the same. Never. Thank goodness I was still dumb in the summer before senior year. Okay. Sorry. We should talk in person. I popped as many boners as Lolly Chan inspired with her swimsuit series. Soon we moved on to talk about other things, but there it was. We were going to talk about it. Trying to find alone time with Lily was a near impossible feat, but we did find it eventually. With her sister away and her parents watching a movie, the two of us carefully orchestrated some time where she was supposed to be on the phone while I was leaving. Instead, we sat in their kitchen. Lily was up on the counter, legs dangling, her short shorts showing off her elongated legs with some of that incredible same ivory skin, smooth and seemingly endless. I tried not to stare for too long at one part of her, but staring was becoming impossible. I was into this girl, and no way around it. Fuck. I'd become a pedo. Anon, it isn't a big deal, she said it lightly while I heard my heart pounding. It kind of is. Why do you think I like talking to you? We've been talking for more than a year. You're being nice. You're my friend. Oh my god, obviously I like you. Fortunately, she had a social IQ of greater than 5, managing to beat out my minimum of 4. I couldn't believe it. My heart went from sinking to leaping, and my dick did the same. Holy shit, she liked me. Oh my god, this was a real girl who liked me, and B was wrong. We agreed we could mutually like each other before a creak from upstairs sent me scurrying back from whence I came. Finding another slot of alone time with her suddenly became top priority, as did finding out what things girls like and researching how to not be a complete beta. Of course, all this frantic excitement was tempered by her age and the fact that if anyone ever found out about this, it'd be the end of me. Fortunately, I was not thinking with my brain, so this hardly stopped me. She asked me if I'd ever kissed a girl. I said no. I asked her if she'd ever had a boyfriend, and she said yes, but then qualified that it was in 4th grade. She asked me what made me like her. I answered honestly, describing her personality and what drew me to it, leaving bits about her body, her skin, her hair for the end, trying not to appear too shallow. She asked me if I would kiss her. This was 2 days after the mutual confession of attraction. Saying you like someone is a long way from kissing them, but I said yeah. I wanted to kiss her, and I was given the chance. She said she was way too short for me to kiss, and I said we'd find a way.
The next arrangement of private time took a couple of weeks, but it was finally upon us. I all but had an aneurysm when we finally worked it out. Her parents were away, and I could go to her room if we stayed quiet and avoided her sister. A stupid plan, but I was willing to do anything. Oh god, her room was a reminder of how fucked up I was being. It had stuffed animals in it and even a poster of some Latin heartthrob, but Lily was there too, and she made everything else pale. We talked for maybe 10 seconds, me in her desk chair, her on her bed, and then she pounced on me. I'll always remember her outfit, a pair of black exercise shorts with a horse t-shirt. Her hair was in a ponytail, her feet were bare, the straps of her bra were slightly visible, protruding under the thin shirt, and soon easily felt as my hands went around her back. Her arms rested on my shoulders, legs splayed to either side of mine as I scrambled to adjust the sudden Olympic-sized boner I had that reacted to this. Likely the first amorous touch I'd ever received from a girl. Hey. Her voice was husky, sexy even, way more than it should have been for a girl her age. I wondered how many TV shows she had watched to create this moment. Actually, that's a lie. I only thought about how light she was in my lap, how close our faces were, how her shy smile made those magnificent dimples appear. Hey, I responded in kind. My voice was probably shaking, and I definitely whispered it as I was terrified of being walked in on. The thought of her age, of this being wrong, it was all gone. This was my big chance not to be a beta faggot, and I took it. I leaned my head in and kissed her. Her lips met mine as she moved forward as well. This was my first kiss, hers too, and my god, I immediately knew why people like to kiss. Her lips were so incredibly soft and warm, more than I had imagined. Her hands came around my neck, clasping together, holding me there, our lips moving slightly, mostly mine as I tried to feel her mouth with my own, the idea of tongue seeming miles away at that moment. After a solid 30 seconds, maybe less, maybe an infinity more, we pulled away and I smiled at her. Her cheeks were flaming red. I assume mine were as well. Wow, that was me. She didn't even bother talking, just leaned in for more. I think my hand was probably shaking when I moved it up to her head as our lips pressed against one another. Her hair was so soft, so smooth, and her head felt so small beneath my massive ape-man palm. I stroked her head kind of awkwardly as we kissed before deciding that was weird and moving my hands around her back, hugging her into me as I pulled away again for breath. Her face hovered an inch from mine as she grinned, this time a full toothy grin, seemingly very pleased with herself in the moment, or something like that. I tried not to read into it very far. Her breasts pressing against my chest were almost the last straw, and when she rocked her hips to bring them almost against mine, I am sure she must have felt the trident I was wielding between my legs. I decided, fuck it, might as well try. When I leaned in for the next kiss, still, no words were spoken. I pressed my tongue gently against her lips, as this had just been my first kiss. I obviously had no clue what I was doing, but her mouth tentatively opened, and I felt her own tongue meet mine. Suddenly, they were swirling together, our mouths moving against one another's in an incredibly intimate way. My hand, now back in her hair, holding the back of her head as we moved against one another. Holy fuck, I am seriously about to ejaculate just at this memory. It was fucking incredible. Whatever you are imagining, multiply it by 2. We continued kissing like this for 10, maybe 15 minutes. No words, just smiles, breaths, gasps, and 2 insistent, horny kids trying to get as much out of the other as possible. The idea of going further was out of the question. That would have been crossing a line, and I at least knew I could make some sort of stand there. We kissed and kissed. Look, it is great. I realize being 17 and having a never been kissed moment is the ultimate in faggotry, but it was worth waiting all that time for this. It really was. We knew I'd be missed soon. We were now tempting fate with her sister in the house. We pulled away from one another regretfully, and she got off my lap. I almost felt like I could cry. I wanted her there, permanently. Any moral qualms were now gone. Now it was all about Lily, the girl whom I suddenly saw as so much more than I ever had before. I like you. I think I probably said it first, pathetically. She smiled, lips slightly swollen from all of our fun, glistening with our combined saliva. I like you too. I snuck back out and likely masturbated 12 times, once for each year of her life within the following hour. Going into work the next day, it took everything I had not to scream in my boss's face that I made out with his daughter the previous night. I felt like I was on top of the world and nothing bad could happen. Planning our next meetup was on the top of my to-do list. We talked that night. She said she had really liked our time together, and I said I had too. I said I'd hope it happened again soon, and she agreed. Oh my goddamn, this girl wanted me too. This had to be a bizarro fantasy dream world, not real life, but the memory of holding Lily is all too real. She was soon my sole masturbatory fantasy. I only wanted her, all the time and everywhere. Only Lily. I definitely reached some level of obsession, and it probably showed when I had dinner with them, desperately trying not to leer at her. She played it incredibly cool every single time, obviously far more mature than I. I just wanted to run into a closet with her briefly, meet her in the bathroom, do anything. I mostly managed to keep this to myself, but in our chat she revealed much the same desire. It took a couple weeks, but we made it happen again. Back in her room, her in the exact same outfit, though this time with her hair down, me in her chair, her on my lap, our faces pressed together, kissing like we needed it to live. Later in a conversation, she decided this meant she was my girlfriend. I was fine with this, totally abandoning whatever worries I had about the situation before. Fuck it, if I got to keep kissing her, I was willing to do and say just about anything. I had a month and a half before I had to go, and I planned on making the most of it. The desire to take her on a date was strong but ridiculous. There was no way I could get away with that. The desire to go in public was barely kinda there, mostly just to shove it in my friends' faces, but as I had no friends, they would just call me a pedo anyways, so I mostly ignored it. But the desire to go further? Well, everyone who is ever male knows what that desire is like. How far was Lily willing to go with me? How far was I willing to go with her? Kissing was great. That must mean the rest must be even better. I bought condoms, sort of on a whim, but, after all, I had a girlfriend now. We managed to meet up and kiss one more time before reaching the end of my tenure in South America. It was a sad time, mostly punctuated with me realizing I would do anything to have her around me, and her trying to act as if she didn't care while doing everything she could do to empty her house for me to come over. Despite being a kid, Lily had some brains, and I respected that about her. I asked her about more in one conversation late at night. She said she wasn't sure, but since I was her boyfriend, maybe we could try lying down and kissing. This seemed like basically permission to go ahead with anything, so I agreed that some lie-down kissing would be next on the agenda when I got to her home. The thought of lying on her bed, stuffed animals looking at us while I defiled their owner, well, let's just say that it was no longer morally gross, but rather incredibly hot. She wasn't a kid, she was my girlfriend, albeit a slightly young one, and one that would destroy my life if our relationship were ever to become public, but still, my girlfriend. It was getting down to the wire. Her parents were staying home almost every evening, and I was actually doing some things at work. We were down to just over a week together and had only met up and kissed 3 times, 0 times since we had decided to try it out lying down. I knew I was not going home without that attempt in the bag, no matter what it took. Finally, Lily realized her parents were definitely going nowhere before I left. We had to come up with an alternate.